אמצי מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר רק ים הזהירים לנשמות 6 מיליוני אחינו בני ישראל שנהרגו שנשחטו ושנשרפו שנחנקו שנטבעו ושנקברו חיים בידי הנאצים ועוזריהם ימח שמם על קידוש השם ולנשמות חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל וכל הקדושים שנלחמו במערכות ישראל ושנפלו במלחמתם ומסרו נפשם על קדושת השם העם והארץ ולנשמות הקדושים הנשים נשים וטף שנהרגו ושנשחטו בידי המחבלים ימח שמם ומסרו נפשם על קדושת השם בעבור שאנו מתפללים לעילוי נשמותיהם לכן בעל הרחמים יסירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור החיים את נשמתם בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו בשלום על משכבם למען
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. We now continue with Shomei Yisrael, page 116. Guardian of a unique nation, guard the remnant of a unique people. And let not that unique nation perish. We proclaim the unity of your name, saying, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. We now continue with the lighting of the memorial candles in Shul. And at home, you can do this at home as well, for the 6 million who died at the hands of the Nazis. And we have prepared a table here, specifically for this. Let me just zoom in on this particular table, if I can. Here we go. I'm going to ask Madeleine Whiteson to come forward, please, to light the first candle. Who are you writing for? No.
Lichtenfeld from Poland.
Thank you. Martin. Martin would like to come forward, please. Thank you. Martin Kirsch. And light a candle. Thank you.
We're lighting this candle for Frieda Lichtenberg of Lily Bruml, Poland, perished in 1942, aged 24.
David Hansman for the third candle.
I'm lighting this candle in memory of Abraham Lichtig of Krakow, Poland, who perished at Treblinka in 1942, aged 43.
Spears, please. Like a candle over here. If you want to mention any members of the family. also at the same time.
I like this candle for Joshua Lee shrine of Lily Czech in Poland, perished at Mitsirek in 1942 at the age of 59. And I also include my grandparents and many other members of my family.
Stephen Pordas would like to come forward and light another candle.
This candle is being lit in memory of Rupel Hitchneska of Sorowski in Poland, who died at Treblinka in 1942, age 57.
I didn't get to see it.
Mark Simmons, please, would like to come forward. Also, any members of the family.
Terrible. Awful.
Please mute yourselves.
Quite ugly. Quite.
Could you please mute yourselves, please? Thank you.
Right, this candle in memory of Yom Lichtenberg of Czechoslovakia, Poland, who perished at Sobibor in 1942, age 55. And also the grandparents of my wife Lisa and her uncle.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We're now going to continue with readings from various members of the community. We're going to begin with Henry. Let me just find you, Henry. Just hold on 1 second. Where are you going?
I'm here, Rabbi.
Are you here? Good. Let me just spotlight you so I can put you there. There we are. We can be seen. Okay. Let me just take my spotlight away. That's it. Okay.
Okay, Rabbi.
Yes.
The action in the ghetto Rohatin, March 1942, by Alexander Kimmel. Alexander was born in 1927 in Poland. His mother perished in this ghetto, while he, his father and siblings survived. He wrote a lot about his experiences and about anti-Semitism. Do I want to remember the peaceful ghetto before the raid? Children shaking like leaves in the wind, mothers searching for a piece of bread, shadows on swollen legs moving with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Cries of the wounded begging for life, faces of mothers carved with pain, hiding children dripping with fear. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Do I want to remember my fearful return? Families vanished in the midst of the day, the mass graves steaming with vapor of blood, mothers searching for children in vain. The pain of the ghetto cuts like a knife. No, I don't want to remember, but how can I forget? Do I want to remember the wailing of the night, the doors kicked ajar, ripped feathers floating the air? Do I want to remember this world upside down, where the departed are blessed with an instant death, converting living souls into ashes and gas. No, I have to remember and never let you forget.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you. And now go on to David Harris. Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
As I read this poem, we have in mind the many members of Vivian's family, including her grandparents, aunts, uncle, and baby cousin, who were victims of the Holocaust. The murder of millions of people in the camps was accompanied by plunder on an unprecedented scale. All of the possessions of victims were exploited either for the personal enrichment of the perpetrators or for redistribution amongst the German population. When Majdanek concentration camp in Poland was liberated by the Red Army in 1944, thousands of pairs of shoes were discovered, prompting this reflection from the Yiddish poet Moses Schulstein. He wrote several poems about shoes. This is one. We are the last witnesses. I saw a mountain higher than Mont Blanc and more holy than the mountain of Sinai. Not in a dream, it was real. On this world, this mountain stood. Such a mountain I saw of Jewish shoes in Majdanek. Such a mountain I saw. And suddenly a strange thing happened. The mountain moved. And the thousands of shoes arranged themselves by size, by pairs, in rows, and moved. Here. Hear the march. Hear the shuffle of shoes left behind, that which remained. From small, from large, from each and every one. Make way for the rows, for the pairs, for the generations, for the years. The shoe army, it moves and moves. We are the shoes. We are the last witnesses. We are shoes from grandchildren and grandfathers, from Prague, from Paris and Amsterdam. And because we are only made of stuff and leather and not of blood and flesh, each one of us avoided the hellfire. We shoes that used to go strolling in the market or with the bride and the groom to the chuppah, we shoes from simple Jews, from butchers and carpenters, from crocheted booties of babies just beginning to walk and go on happy occasions, weddings, and even until the time of giving birth to a dance, to exciting places, to life, or quietly, to a funeral. Unceasingly we go, we tramp. The hangman never had the chance to snatch us into his sack of loot. Now we go to him. Let everyone hear the steps which flow as tears, the steps that measure out the judgment. I saw a mountain, higher than Mont Blanc and more holy than the mountain of Sinai.
Thank you, David. Now we're going to go to Karen Flong. Karen,
yeah. The Last Lullaby, written by Yanka Brahmi with a message to my sister Bella and her daughter Ruti. She saw the chimneys belching smoke and the black smoke above covering the world with a blanket of doom, obscuring the picture of God. She held on to her mother, the terror in her dark eyes distorting her 4-year-old face with ancient wisdom. I don't want to go in there for a shower, she cried. I don't want to go. Shush, my pet, don't cry. The water won't be cold and I'll hold you tight. The woman soothed her child as they walked into the concrete cage. She couldn't see the chimneys anymore, nor the dark clouds above, nor did she hear the moans, the Shema Yisrael of others as she snuggled close to her mother. All she heard was the loving voice whisper the last lullaby of Auschwitz. Shush, my darling, shush. Wasted Life, translated from Polish, written in Auschwitz, 1944, by Helena Nelkin, then age 19. Wasted life, what a shame that the days flow without any meaning, that instead of laughter, I know only tears. I am sorry, so sorry that I have lost all hope so long ago. How to agree with human meanness? How to think about dying when the world is calling? I am not even 20 years old. I am young, young, young. Wasted life. What a shame.
Thank you, Karen. We're now going to go over to Lawrence Green.
This is a memorial by Magda Herzberger. Death was lurking constantly in the concentration camps of Germany. So many times I could have been selected for the gas chambers to meet the horrible fate of all the infants, the children, the young, the old, the sick, the disabled, who were executed in the mysterious White House of Auschwitz, whose naked bodies were thrown to the furnaces of the huge crematoriums whose ashes were used on the fields and gardens, day and night. The great flames of the ovens belched from the chimneys. The air was filled with the strange, sickening, sweltering odour of burning flesh. I mourn you innocent victims, members of my family, my fellow prisoners who were silenced forever by the Nazis. Your wailing and cries and your terrible contortions met death's ears and blind eyes and was disdained to live to bear my misery. Hashem chose me to return to remind the world of your agony, erecting tombstones in your memory. Can I just also add on that I must include in this my son-in-law Danny Hirschberger's grandparents, Jenny and Sigmund Hirschberger, who perished at Auschwitz.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lawrence. I'm now going to go over to Vivian Gould. Just go over. Here we are.
As I read this poem, we have in mind David's grandparents who were murdered in Auschwitz. This poem, The Valley of Dry Bones, is another poem written in Auschwitz by Magda Herzberger in memory of all her family members killed by the Nazis there. In the Valley of Dry Bones, there are no graves, no tombstones. The petrified remains of the innocent victims of persecution, covered with bloodstains, are scattered around, casting horror and awe upon the clay ground. I witnessed their unjust execution. They were taken by force to their chambers of extermination. Kicked and beaten by cruel fists, they wore tattooed numbers on their wrists and the shield of David on their chests. They met death by uttering their sacred prayer in their last breath. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Brave martyrs of the Hebrew generation, members of my family, my fellow prisoners, many years pass by since you are gone, but I remember your desperate cry. Our bodies will decay, our flesh will be rotten. If you survive Auschwitz, please don't let us be forgotten. My life was spared by God's intervention. I know that the purpose of that heavenly protection was to return with the memory of your suffering and pain, to make sure you didn't die in vain, to fulfill your last wish, not letting your courageous spirits ever perish. And another poem, almost a love song, by Yehuda Amichai, translated from Hebrew. He was born in 1924. His family fled Germany when he was 12 and settled in Israel, and he's regarded as Israel's greatest modern poet. If my parents and your parents hadn't emigrated to Eretz Yisrael in 1936, we would have met in 1944, there on the platform at Auschwitz. I am 20 and you at 5. Where's Mamala? Where's Tatala? What's your name? Hanala.
Thank you. Here we go. Jane Hampman.
I'd like to read the following poems and remember in particular my great aunt, Jette van Koppelen, her daughters Celie and Elizabeth, who died in Auschwitz, and Jette's husband, Alexander van Koppelen, who died in Midden Europe. A Riddle by William Hayen. From Belsen, a crate of gold teeth. From Dachau, a mountain of shoes. From Auschwitz, a skin lampshade. Who killed the Jews? Not I, cries the typist. Not I, cries the engineer. Not I, cries Adolf Eichmann. Not I, cries Albert Speer. My friend Fritz Nova lost his father. A petty official had to choose. My friend Lou Abrams lost his brother. Who killed the Jews? David Nova swallowed gas. Hyman Abrams was beaten and starved. Some men signed their papers and some stood guard. And some herded them in, and some dropped the pellets, and some spread the ashes, and some hosed the walls. Some smelt the smoke, some just heard the news. Were they Germans? Were they Nazis? Were they human? Who killed the Jews? The stars will remember the gold. The sun will remember the shoes. The moon will remember the skin. But who killed the Jews? The next poem I'm going to read is called I Am a Jew, and it's a poem written by Franta Bass. Franta was born in Czechoslovakia on September the 4th, 1930. On December the 2nd, 1941, he and his family were deported to Theresienstadt. He was only 11 years old at the time. For about 3 years, he stayed there under poor conditions and very scarce food. He was murdered along with his family in Auschwitz on October the 28th, 1944. He was 14 years old. I am a Jew, and a Jew I shall remain, even if I die of hunger. I will not give up my nation. I will fight always for my nation, on my honor. I will never be ashamed of my nation, on my honor. I am proud of my nation, a nation most worthy of honor. I shall always be oppressed. I shall always live again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. We're now going to Rochelle Goldberg.
The Creed of a Holocaust Survivor. This is part of another poem by Alexander Kimmel, one showing his hopes and beliefs for the world. This is a good reading to end our poems, as these hopes are ours too. I do believe with all my heart in the natural goodness of man. I do believe with all my heart that Hashem created a beautiful world, the sun and the trees, the flowers and the bees, and the best way to serve Hashem is to enjoy the fruits of his labor of love, despite the painful memories from the past. In the joyful celebration of life, I do believe with all my heart that Mashiach and the kingdom of heaven will come, and man will become his brother's keeper, when man will stop killing man in the name of Hashem. And nation shall not lift weapons against nation. When it will be, I do not know, but despite all the signs to the contrary, in the dawn of a better world, I do believe.
Thank you so much. We now continue. Please turn to page 165, and we're going to sing Ani Ma'amin. Ani Ma'amin, Emunah Shalema, Beviat HaMoshiach, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Emunah Shalema, Beviat HaMoshiach, Ani Ma'amin, V'afapiv she'yismameyahim kozeh, achakelo, b'chol yom she'yavo, b'chol yom she'yavo, v'afapiv Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. We're going to recite together the Catechism is our petition on this night. Iskadal, Iskadal, Yomar, Yamlif, Malkutei, Hayafon, Yamkom, Ufachaye, to fall base Israel, Ba'agalom,
Amen.
Yahei Shemei, Barach, La'olam, Olamei, Almighty. Yisbarach, B'Yitzchak, Yisbarach, B'Yitzchak, B'Yitzchak, Yitzhadah, Halev, Yitzhadah, Shemei, T'Kudishah, T'Richu, La'elah, Yisbol, B'Rachah, Yisbachah, B'Chasah,
Amen. Amen.
Shalom, Rabba, Min, Shemaya, Chayim, Yalkol,
Amen.
Shalom,
In the law, we are say shalom.
Shalom, Aleinu, Yalkol,
Israel.
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. I'm now going to call upon Irene. Irene, are you there? To introduce the our speaker, Lily. Hold on, let me just there we go. So your microphone is a little bit noisy. Irene, want to say something?
Yes. Lily, Lily, I want to welcome you, give you a very warm Kenton welcome. We are absolutely delighted and greatly honoured that you agreed to speak to us tonight. I'd like to thank you, the members of your family who have come, and I'd like to thank Oscar who helped me communicate with you. I'd like to especially thank Susie and Sam Moss who are with you tonight physically. We know that you've spoken in some schools, but that you're very pleased to speak to our community, and we're really looking forward to it because I've heard you have lots of stories. We know that you survived Theresienstadt, and I know that it must be quite an effort every time you speak, but we're really, really pleased you're going to And without further ado, I invite you to talk to us. Welcome.
It's muted.
You're unmuted. You're unmuted.
Can everyone? Okay. Yep.
You are unmuted, Lily.
Okay.
I was born on the 2nd of September 1923 in Czechoslovakia, which now is the Czech Republic, in the German part called Sudetenland. My mother was born in Trautenau as well, and my father came from Vienna in the First World War as a soldier. He met my mother, and in 1915 they got married. Life was very pleasant. I went to school, had many friends. I belonged to a sports club. I played tennis. I went swimming, cycling, and in winter skiing and skating. That is my father, mother, brother, and grandma, lived in a big house. We had 2 maids. My father had a factory, special polished wooden toys, and we were a very happy family. My friends were mainly Germans, but nobody cared. Suddenly in 1938, my mother told me, "You can't go to the sports club anymore because we are Jewish." I couldn't understand, but mother told me not to go, so I stayed at home. In September 1938, my parents listened to the radio when Hitler spoke, and later that evening, the mayor at our town spoke, and he said to the people who were gathered there, "Tonight we celebrate. Our Führer Hitler is coming to liberate us, and do whatever you like to do. Enjoy yourself."
Lily, can I just interrupt you? Could you move a little bit closer to the microphone? Can you get closer? A little bit closer? Maybe. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you.
And my father heard what the mayor was talking to the people. He decided that is the moment we have to leave. We got into the car. Which was a big Chevrolet. I grabbed my dog, and I was terribly, terribly afraid. That was for me for a long, long time to be afraid. The Germans occupied the Sudetenland into Germany. We drove out of the Sudetenland into Czechoslovakian territory and stayed in a little hotel overnight. As my father manufactured toys from January till September, his money was mainly in the goods because the toys were supposed to be delivered from September onwards for Christmas. We had to try to find a way. We had to try to find a way to earn a living, and we stayed in little places, not knowing yet what to do. And my father was in Prague. And he to look for an opportunity for work. By luck, he heard of a furniture factory near Prague which was not doing very well. So he approached the owner, a Czech Gentile, and told him, if you give me some money and some space in your factory, I promise you I will give you some money afterwards. The deal was agreed. My father started to work. That means he had to find suppliers of all raw materials needed. But we succeeded, and manufacturing started to the satisfaction of the owner of the factory.
They can't hear you. You need to pick up a bit more of that. They can't hear you.
Came Kristallnacht, smashing glass, windows, shops, and so on. My mother and grandmother and I stayed in a little village, and the police came to escort us back to my hometown. As my father and brother were in Prague, they arranged for us to be escorted to Prague. My father found a little flat. His parents, grandma, me, and brother lived. Life was very hectic. One could not know what was coming. On the 15th of March, 1939, Hitler decided that the Sudetenland was not enough for him and occupied the whole of Czechoslovakia. It was snowing heavily. The soldiers were marching down the main square and sang triumphant songs. And there was very frightening again. My brother decided immediately to leave. He was just 20 years old, and he went to Palestine. After a long journey on a dilapidated ship, he arrived in Palestine, and as an illegal immigrant, he was put into prison. When he was released, he joined the British Army, got some training, and was sent to Greece to fight. After a short while, the Germans caught up with him, and within weeks, he was back in Germany as a British prisoner of war. They had no possibility to emigrate and got used to living under German rule. But by September 1939, the Second World War started. Czechoslovakia was a small country, self-sufficient in agriculture, coal mines, industries, etc. Nearly a paradise. As soon as the Germans occupied the country, the shops were looted, factories overtaken by Germans, and life became very, very difficult. First of all, there were restrictions for Jews. Wearing the Star of David, hand in your radio, valuables, pets, curfew, and shopping only after 3 in the afternoon, not allowed to walk on the pavement. Jews were not allowed to buy fruit, onions, vegetables, and many other things. Because I was the only one who spoke Czech, had to do the shopping. And I went already before to a certain stall on the market, and I continued after 3 p.m., gave him my bag, he filled it with whatever he had, and gave it back to me, and I paid. At that moment, the man approached me and said, "Empty the bag." and showed me that he was a German official. Bag has been emptied, and he called a policeman to march me to the nearest police station. I was 17 years old. I was interrogated for hours, crying all the time and very disturbed. My mother was at home and could not understand why I'm not coming home until a woman who saw me being marched to the police station told my mother that I am at the police station. My mother was in shock. She grabbed the keys, the flat, and ran to the police station. I was sitting there, shaking and crying still, but mother was there. My mother spoke to a policeman, and after I signing the interrogation, the crime of my crime, they were able to release me. Mother took me into her arms, and to my horror, I noticed she didn't wear the Star of David, which was a criminal offense. A kind policeman came to help, gave my mother a newspaper and said, cover it as you would cover the Star of David. Be calm and walk home slowly, both of you. I was shaken for a long time. For some time, still my father could work in the factory, but the traveling was made impossible and he had to stop. I do not remember the exact date. Life became very difficult. The rumors were spreading. The winter of 1941 was very cold. It was snowing, and my father and others had to go to sweep the snow from the runway of the airport. The transport started to Poland and Theresienstadt. 6th of August 1942, my parents, grandma and I got the papers to report in a certain place being allowed 50 kilo. We managed to get on the tram, last coach only, and walk to our destination. We were 1,060 people assembled. 60 survived. We got a mattress each, all slept in the hole, and after a comfortable, civilized flat in Prague, suddenly there was no privacy. Toilets were not sufficient, and we had to use latrines, about 15 people at the same time. On the 10th of August 1942, early morning, we had to walk to the railway station guarded by Eichmann. We were pushed with our luggage into cattle trucks, hardly room to stand on both legs. Many people, unfortunately, were very sick, and there was a bucket with a whole train, the train. The journey, though it was not very far from Prague, took many hours. We arrived in a place called Bohuschowice, the nearest railway station to Theresienstadt. We walked with our 50 kilo. In the terrific heat, it was August. We were led to a gate, all clothes taken away, just one thing which you had on. 50 kilos were gone as well. I became number BA992. That was my new name. Everybody who arrived in Theresienstadt had to do very unpleasant jobs. I had to wash the stairs in a place old and sick people were. As it happens, my grandmother was there. She was 72 years old. Unfortunately, I had to watch her passing away, to which my mother added, it is a blessing for her not to suffer anymore. Theresienstadt was a garrison town for about 5,000 people and soldiers who had to vacate the town. As we were sometimes 50 or 60,000 people, the water supply was very, very limited, and the sewers could not cope. It was sheer chaos. I stayed in barracks, sharing bunks, bed with about 40 women. Food was in the morning a black liquid for which you had to queue. The next meal was a sort of broth made out of a beet, which normally is only cattle food. Every week we got a spoon of sugar, a tiny slice of margarine, and a small piece of bread. I had a great dilemma. Do I ration myself, or do I eat it immediately? I must admit, I was very weak, and most of the time I could not resist, and then I had a happy feeling for just a little while. The Germans appointed a committee for Jews who had to run the camp. The Germans knew of the manufacturing of educational toys in Czechoslovakia and thought they could have it for their children free from slave labor. As the Jewish committee called the elders knew of my father being an expert, they told him to assemble workers, possibly skilled, raw material would be supplied, and start on manufacturing. He found some deaf and dumb people who were very skilled with their hands. My mother and I
Does Marlene come up now? Pretty not tough. Yes, we seem to have lost her. Where's Lily? Ah, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, we seem to have lost you there. Let me just put you back up again.
Yeah, and we're back.
Are you back? Good.
Okay.
That's much better, much better. Speak like that. That's fine. It's fine.
I finished with, there were some deaf and dumb people who were very skilled with their hands. My mother and I were there. That meant we saw each other every day. And we were exempt of being sent in the next transport east, which was twice a week. The manufacturing continued, the Germans came and inspected frequently, and they were very satisfied. But unfortunately, the supply of raw material stopped after some time. The war continued, and the Germans needed ammunition boxes. And my father got the job of organizing the manufacturing. One day, the German officer who was responsible for these boxes asked for statistics. That means how many boxes were made by each person, how many minutes it took, and so on and so on. And I was ordered to take the statistic to him. When I entered his room, I saw a big bowl of lovely green apples, stared at them. As I always loved green apples. The officer took the list from me and said, "Have an apple," and left the room. I could not enjoy the apple because I was terrified somebody might come in, but I did eat it. In 1944, the Red Cross came to inspect the camp. They were led where the Germans prepared clean streets, houses being washed, grocery shops, a fashion shop where you could buy clothes which were taken away from you, a coffee house with live music, and money was printed and distributed. The Red Cross was impressed and left. In October 1944, further transport to the east stopped, and the rumors were thriving. 27th of January, Auschwitz was liberated, but we didn't know it. Nothing changed with us. We still worked on the boxes, but people who left in 1944 from Theresienstadt to Auschwitz returned nearly unrecognizable, skeleton and very sick. In March 1945, the Germans prepared for their departure, ordered wooden crates to be manufactured. Biscuits like rusk had to be baked. The bakery needed more people, and I heard of it. I was lucky to be selected for work there. That meant I could have some bread and give some to my parents. There were rumors for a few days that the war will be over soon because the guards were leaving. On the 8th of May 1945, suddenly we saw Russian tanks entering the camp, waving flags. Then I realized that we were free. Many barracks were locked because there was typhoid. The first thing the Russians had done to open all the barracks, the gates, which of course spread the disease, and the starved people even given bread which they could not digest because the stomach had shrunk and burst. My uncle in England had a friend in the British Army. The British Army was not very far away. He was a doctor, and after a few days could enter the camp to find me and my parents, and examined us and helped us to recover. When I wanted to leave, I was told that I had to stay in the bakery, as there were thousands of people who could not leave, as they were too ill or had nowhere to go to. So I had to stay, but for the heavy work, we took German prisoners. I was allowed to travel occasionally to Prague, as I wanted to see what I could do about our homecoming. My parents stayed with friends in Prague in the meantime. I traveled 3 people on the train, were very helpful in every way, and slowly I got a little bit of confidence for the future. After some time, I traveled to my hometown to find that our house was occupied by a Russian who did not want to vacate it. It was an endless struggle. I had to return to Theresienstadt and work in the bakery. It took a long time to improve my health and strength, but I succeeded eventually. As I want to end my story on a positive note, I have to tell you the Czech gentleman with whom my father worked came to visit my father and said, while you've been incarcerated, I made some money by manufacturing the toys. And here is your share, and you are welcome to come back to us and work for us. I had the greatest difficulties from the Czech authorities to get our house back, because my father was Austrian. The factory stopped working already years ago, and I eventually succeeded by telling them my brother, who fought in the British Army, wants to come home for a visit, and I got the permission because of him to stay in our house but had to pay rent. Things slowly got better. I got a job and we were hopeful for the future. But in 1948, there were riots and the communists were running the country. So my father said, in a country where we are not free, we cannot live. The only place we can go to is Austria, because he was Austrian. Very unhappy to move there. My father started manufacturing again, and in May 1949, I came to England to visit my family here. I had a wonderful time being invited to parties and taking sightseeing by friends, among whom was a young man who paid special attention to me. I stayed in London for 4 weeks and went back to my parents announcing I want to get married. On the 11th of August 1949, I got married in Austria, went to the British Embassy, saw allegiance to the King, and after a few weeks, I got British papers to allow me to go to England. I arrived in London beginning of September and lived here in happiness with my dear husband for nearly 50 years when he passed away. My life changed very much. Now I have my memories turned.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to give over now to Irene. Irene, I'm just going to have to find. Are you there, Irene?
Yes, Lily, that was an amazing account of your life and very interesting. I know that we couldn't hear so well some of the time and it was quite difficult, but we all worked hard to hear. It was very, very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I believe that you said you would answer a few questions if we had any. So I want to see if anybody, Rabbi, can you look around? Does anyone got any?
Yes, I'll have a look very quickly as we're going through here. Let me see if we've got any questions. Anybody would like to ask a question?
Can I say something? My name is Oscar, and Lily, Auntie Lily, or Lily, is my aunt. Regrettably, we've all lived through this terrible COVID, and this is the first time she's ever told her story via Zoom. It wasn't totally clear, so I want to tell you a little bit more about her. She will be 98 years old in September.
No, no,
She's, she lives alone. She is an inspiration. She's always positive, always enthusiastic, and is just an amazing person. Unfortunately, all of her story can't be told, and it wasn't all of it, but let me tell you, what she has only lived through and is able to talk about is remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And would anybody else like to ask a question or any comments?
Let's read the comments here as well.
Can I just ask a question? Over the years, Lily, have you found that any memories became more acute or less acute with time, like some of the worst memories? What did you find that you are remembering certain things more?
Difficult, isn't it?
You're remembering more things more.
I do remember everything as it had happened yesterday.
Really? Mm.
It is not, I cannot say I wake up at night with nightmares, but it is comes back again and again what happened.
Yes.
But if I asked my aunt to recall something, or a year or a date or a time, her mind is so sharp that she can recall something to the day that might have happened 40 years ago or 60 years ago.
But that is typical old people.
No,
I remember as well
no.
what happened now.
Yeah, but that's not just typical. That's because of her mental cognitive ability, her intelligence, and her resilience and strength, which we hope that she's passed on to all of us. We're very, very lucky.
We know obviously there's a lot to think about, but it makes perfect sense.
Hello, Norman.
This is Rita, actually. Norman's wife. I want to tell your aunt that I had discussions with a lady who came from Czechoslovakia. Excuse me.
She's telling me.
Talking to you, Norman. Talking on the phone. Hello, sorry about that. I had discussions with a lady and I wish she came from Czechoslovakia. She managed to do what your brother did. She got to Palestine on illegal ships, she told us. She told me many stories, but she didn't get into the camp. She lost all her family, but they were in Czechoslovakia, and her parents had a factory that made ladies' hats. Her name was Ilsa Sheldon. That's a married name, but I don't know what her maiden name was. I wondered if you knew her. It was about the same age. She was 17 when she left to go to Palestine.
Don't forget, we were 50,000 people. I don't know, I can't remember any names anymore.
No.
We sat next to each other working, but we said everything finished.
No, my father went to Palestine, not my aunt. Our father went to Palestine.
I know, her brother.
Yeah, that's mine and Oscar's father, but my father passed quite a while back. So yeah.
She did eventually come to England. Her brother had come to England earlier, so she came eventually to England. But they lost all their family in Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
Should we do one more question?
Robert, please.
Thank you. Lily, it's wonderful to see you and hear your stories and your reminiscences and your memory. I've had been involved with some research into the music of Theresienstadt.
That's right.
When you were there, were you aware of any concerts and music?
I was not aware at all that it exists. The same with theater. I just did not know. I went to work and back to the barracks and slept, and that was it. I didn't know anything. I know when the Red Cross came, because we had a good meal, and we were, as I said, with money, we could go to the shop. You could buy mustard in the shop there.
Thank you.
I think Emma wants to say something.
Yeah, hi. I'm actually well, not really related to Lily, but I'm Uncle Oscar, who is her nephew. He's my uncle, so I know Lily. And hello, and I miss you.
Hello,
and,
hello, Emma.
Hi. And I wanted to say, Lily had she managed to tell me and my husband her story in great detail, and it was unbelievable. And I had the big honor of actually going to Theresienstadt and seeing where the barracks that she was in, and it's just incredible, her story. But Lily, I wanted to ask you, did you ever stay in touch with anyone that was that you had contact with in your barracks?
Not in the barracks, but in Theresienstadt was my friend. When I went from Trautenau, when we went to Prague, I had a few friends. And these friends I met again, saw them occasionally in Theresienstadt. Most of them did not survive, but one friend, my friend was called Susie, she lived very near me, and we were friends till about, she died a couple of years ago. We met in 1939, and we were friends for about 70 years.
That's amazing. So wonderful. You're just a wonderful woman.
I remember everything. I can't tell everything because it would take hours and hours if I would tell you everything. It's just in a nutshell my life. And my life now here is memories which I try very hard only to think of good things, not the bad things.
S.J. Bernstein, I think you want to ask something.
Hi, I'm Emma's sister, also related to
SSJ.
Lily, I was wondering if you might tell everybody about the present that somebody gave you that you still have from in the camp that they made you. Could you tell them about that?
The box?
Yeah.
Yes, I got the box here.
Could you tell everybody a little bit about how it came about and what it is?
Yes. You know, when we were manufacturing the toys, the deaf and dumb people were very, very skilled, as I said before. They stole a little bit of, we worked with paper, they stole paper and made me, for my birthday, they made me a little box. Susie, get the box. It's on the back here. They made me the box. Open that, open. And take the box out. Take it out.
I can't see where it is. This?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
It was birthday present. Can you see it?
Yeah. Hold it up.
1943.
Wow.
Which I treasure, of course, very, very much.
Wow. See that? Oh, you see that.
Can you all see it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
She made it for you was it for your birthday? From
my birthday, 2nd of September, 1943. I was 20 years old. Ancient.
Thank you.
Thank you, S.J. So
Irene, back to you.
Okay, well, I just thank you again. Awesome.
I thank you very much for inviting me.
Lily, thank you very, very much on behalf of everybody. Oh, Irene's gone off. Irene, you're muted. Irene, you're... Oh. Irene?
Am I on now?
There we go. Oh, yeah, you're on now. Yes, go on.
Okay. Lily, I just want to come back and thank you yet one more time. It was an amazing talk, and you're an amazing lady, and you've just had an amazing life. I'm so glad that you're so positive, and it's just been wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much.
You make me blush. You can't see me, luckily.
We can.
But not face to face.
Anyway, I thank you very much, and I must tell you, I only talked to you about my grandma. Of course, I lost a lot of my mother's side, the whole family, everybody gone, my father's sister, his sister, and so on. So I lost a lot of family, unfortunately, and they were all young people. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm just going to put us onto the gallery view, and thank you, and a good evening to everybody. And once again, Lily, really, really thank you for everything, for coming round today. And here's a gallery view of everybody, and I just everybody can wish each other good nights and a shkoyach to you. Thank you once again. Keep well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Good night, Lila.
Good night.
Oh, we've gone back to
Rabbi and Frank and all the other people who took part in the service tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't get them all on this side.
What's it?
Did you ring up about Eva Bristol?
Oh, yes, I did.
Ages ago. Can't even see her name down. Our daughter. Kneeling, I could understand. I can't even see her name down. She was before. She's gone.
There she is.
No, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.